Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for coming. We're Blueprint Reality, and today we're going to be talking about the definitive guide to mixed reality broadcasting. I'm Tarrnie Williams, CEO and co-founder of Blueprint Reality.
And I'm Ben Sheftel, CTO and co-founder. And we wanted to talk about mixed reality, and in particular, there's a few things that I think people might not be thinking about when they're talking about mixed reality. And in fact, I believe you guys have all experienced mixed reality at one point or another, possibly even decades ago.
So first, I thought we'd tell you a little bit about us. We're a software developer located in Vancouver, Canada. We work on tools. We also work on games. We've been using Unity for years and love it.
You may have seen some of our work at the keynote. We were responsible for the A Mighty Kingdom demo, as well as the technology that powered the mixed reality presentation.
And that technology is called Mixcast VR.
As well as being a tools developer, we're a games developer, and we've got our game Awaken. It's a room-scale puzzle game for PC headsets, and it's downstairs at the Made with Unity showcase. So I wanted to talk a minute about a bit of an elephant in the room, which is the term mixed reality. There's been a war being fought over it, I think, and we were fully prepared to pick up our guns and head to battle. But you know what? We decided we're a little too peaceful for that. We're going to become big tent people and think that there's room for everyone in mixed reality.
And so there's a number of different technologies that really can utilize mixed reality. Microsoft HoloLens, in many ways Pokemon Go.
Things like the trailer for Fantastic Contraption, or even stuff like putting a VR headset on your head and then riding a roller coaster.
And so many years ago, a fine gentleman put together kind of the continuum between reality and virtual reality, or as we may know it more naturally, conventional reality and virtual reality. And in between those sit augmented reality and augmented virtuality, really which comprise mixed reality together. And when you think about those, what are we doing? We're working towards a unified representation of a reality, because we as humans are very good at handling one reality, but we're not all that good at doing two at the same time. Really what we're aiming for is a sense of presence in whatever reality we're in, whether that be a complete virtuality, a complete reality, or any combination of the two.
So let's talk a little bit about what needs to go into this in order to make mixed reality. Really, we have three elements. We've got the human, we've got the environment, and we've got the computer. So let's break that down a little bit. First, human and environment interaction. We've been doing this for thousands of years. We're really good at it now. That's conventional reality, right? Next step would be the computer-human interaction. We've been developing this for a long time as well. We've gone from punch cards to mice and keyboards, and now we're at hand-tracked controllers and all sorts of other things. And then lastly, this is possibly the most interesting one, is the computer-environment interaction. And that's where we're seeing tons of growth right now, but it's definitely lagging a little bit behind the other two. In between them, there's this, the computer environment element there is about sensation and making sure that the computer knows what's going on. And when you have all three things together, we can create mixed reality.
It's not just about vision. It's actually about all of your senses in terms of mixing those realities.
Of course, vision is still an extremely important part. The explosion of VR right now is probably just due to the fact that we are now able to produce visual images at the high enough quality on our faces, like with the Oculus and the Vive.
And on the audio side, there's a lot of work being done on 3D binaural stereo audio. Possibly it's a little bit behind being able to create the full sensation from where the visuals are, but lots of work going on in that area, and I think we're going to see some pretty amazing work coming out of that.
Feel is obviously a very important part as well. Currently, we're kind of limited. We've got haptics in our controllers, and that's about all we have.
But haptics, as we look forward, we're going to see great things, like for your hands. We're going to get gloves that are enabled to give you that sort of feedback. You can put a plank on the ground for something like Richie's plank experience, and if you've ever tried that, walking on the plank greatly enhances the sense of presence that you feel. People are working on masks that can convey the sense of heat, or wind, or mist. And, of course, people are working on vests, haptic vests that give you feedback, haptic suits that give you feedback all over. Further out, we've got things like taste and smell. And while it'll be probably quite a while before we see that, I'm looking forward to the day when they have this mastered, because smell in many ways should actually trigger and connects with some of the deepest memories we ever create. And we've solved some of those problems. I believe the sense of presence will be really, really incredible.
So now that we've talked a little bit about what can go into making mixed reality, we should zoom in and talk about broadcasting, which is what we're really focused on right now. Broadcasting is really about transmitting information. In this case, the definition might be a little outdated by radio or television. I think we could add internet as well. But really, we're just trying to convey an experience, in this case, to an audience, a remote audience.
Because really, conveying that experience to a remote audience is going to be done to 2D screens for a long time. Yes, we will eventually, perhaps, all have virtual reality headsets and spend all our lives in a constant state of presence, but that's going to be a while off. And so being able to transmit some experiences to televisions, mobile phones, and monitors is going to be a critical aspect of growing this industry for a long time to come.
So here's an example of some footage from our game Awaken, but this is first-person footage, stuff you would get without mixed reality. Now, you may not even tell immediately that this is actually a VR application, because there's nothing that really indicates that sense of presence immediately. And in addition to that, the head isn't a great cameraman. Everything's shaky. You're not really getting a good view of what's happening.
Another challenge we can get is perhaps, what if we use a synthetic avatar or a character or something like that? And, there's a couple challenges there in the sense that if you're trying to convey a sense of presence to an audience, you still can't, in fact, tell whether or not what the experience of a human being is if you're looking at a synthetic avatar. There has been lots of progress made with synthetic avatars, and certainly much of the latest research says that people can emotionally connect with an avatar or some sort of computer-generated character just as much as they can with humans. But that said, there is a range, and they have to do it right.
And of course, there's lots of ways that can go wrong. You can see the uncanny valley. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that. And even in that case, you're still just showing a virtual experience. There's still that lacking humanity to it that becomes immediately obvious when you put mixed reality into it. So for example, here we have Fantastic Contraption. This is from one of their streams. They've actually got more than one person in this mixed reality output. And I would actually call this augmented virtuality, because you're taking real people and putting them into an entirely virtual environment. Go ahead.
Okay. Next up, we have an augmented reality, where in this particular case, we see a scene where we're, as a viewer, able to see what, in fact, the person wearing the HoloLens is seeing.
And this is a really interesting application. Outpost VFX has done something really cool here where basically you think you're looking at an image of two people playing ping pong, but in fact, they're not even in the same room. And so this is a really interesting idea here.
And what's happening essentially is that the audience is being conveyed a sense of presence greater than either of the participants are experiencing. Each of them is in a headset in their own room playing on a virtual ping pong table against an avatar. And yet we as an audience, through the mixed reality combination that they're creating, actually get the full sense that they're playing together in the same room.
So we should walk back a little bit and talk about the pioneers in this area. Kirk Gardner is definitely one to mention. He was responsible for trailers for the Job Simulator application, working with Alchemy Labs, as well as working with the Northways on Fantastic Contraption. The Northways have also been really pushing mixed reality broadcasting forward. Like I said, they were doing streams for a long time in mixed reality with people on the couch commenting. And I'm wearing my Neko t-shirt today that they gave me for some of the contributions I made to their mixed reality tech. And we couldn't go without mentioning the prolific Oz from Upload VR. He's been creating tons and tons of mixed reality content.
And of course, we've got Valve, HTC, who created the video that probably many of you saw when they launched the Vive, which really, I think, did a fantastic job of conveying what VR could feel like to an audience who probably had never experienced it and really didn't know what that was going to feel like. Now, one of the challenges with what they've created, though, is that has all been very difficult. It's taken, definitely complicated stage setups. It's taken multi-crew sets, multi-day shoots. And, in order for us to be able to get to a place where, we can take mixed reality to mainstream broadcasting, a lot of that needs to be made easier. And, I think that's a place where we really need to see a lot of progress. Mixed reality needs to be able to be created with tools that people have accessible right now with webcams, consumer DSLRs, and capture cards. Yes, you need to support high-end as well, but you need to hit the low end. You need to be able to go hit Amazon and purchase an inexpensive green screen, or perhaps maybe no green screen at all, and we're actually showing off a background removal with no green screen downstairs. Mighty Kingdom, for those of you who were at the keynote yesterday, creating the technology that makes this more accessible enables new media to be created. Yesterday we probably, in conjunction with Unity, performed the first live simultaneous broadcast of a mixed reality experience to an audience and to online at the same time. So now, Ben's going to hop over and we're going to demonstrate actually a setup of Mixcast, which is an application that we've created in order to simplify mixed reality setup. Ben's going to hop into VR and walk you through what we need to do.
All right. So I'm standing here in our Mixcast VR Studio application, and I'm going to perform the camera alignment step of our configuration. Really, there's two major steps here, camera alignment and background removal. And so we'll get to that next, but let's start with alignment. You can see right now that my controllers aren't matching at all between the virtual and the real controller. So really, this step is going to take that and try to match those spaces so that everything will align. So to do that, I'm going to look down at the quick setup button, squeeze the trigger. This step is a little bit interesting. I'm going to walk forward with my controller to try to match up the controller ring with the blue circle on screen. When I feel like I've got a good enough alignment, I'm going to click on the grip button. There we go. So that's the first step. And then the other step is to perform a similar process on the crosshairs here. So try to get it nice and centered. Same thing up here. And actually, we've got some pretty good alignment already. I can continue to increase the precision, use some more crosshairs here, and by adding more samples, I should get a more precise value. Again, that's pretty good. And you want to test it out by actually moving your controllers around quite a bit and seeing how well they stay aligned. Now, once you've finished this, we would move on to the chroma keying step in this case, since I'm in a green screen booth. And I'm going to hop into desktop view to do that, because it's actually simple enough that I don't need to go to my computer. All right. So I'm going to switch from first person to mixed reality. There you go. And now the step that I'm going to try to follow here is under compositing. I'm using chroma keying, and we're using a really simple eyedropper type tool to paint out areas of the scene that I don't want. So I'm just going to sort of drag over all of this green that I don't like until it disappears. Well, that's pretty good. Maybe I'll check out some shadows in the corner. Yeah, let's get rid of that. Okay, there we go. So that was the compositing step. I've got pretty good results. Maybe I could go back in and improve a little bit more. But even at this stage, I've got pretty good alignment and good mixed reality being output.
Great. Can we switch back over to the slides, please? So any of you have experimented with what you can achieve right now with some of the virtual reality that comes out of Steam VR can understand that that setup can often take an extremely long time to be able to perform. And so making it faster, making it easier, greatly increases the iteration cycles. Some of the other technologies that's available in that includes immediate mode, which gives you better depth and better buffering and things like that. As well, I think one of the things that you might have noticed was that as Ben was moving his hands, there was some delay, and we actually have delay compensation, and you can adjust that on the fly in Mixcast. Once you've exited Mixcast Studio and you've done your setup, you can then enter into any other Mixcast supported application without having to do the setup again. And within that application, if there is some variation, you can in fact adjust some of those settings on the fly to make sure that you get a really, really good setup.
So here's a few examples. Chroma Lab, a great GPU-based particle simulation that we've got Mixcast enabled in. It's really fun to play around in that. Get some great footage. Moving on, we've got Sky Climbers, which is this really ambitious open-world RPG. Can get lots of great footage out of this too. Of course, extremely entertaining. We can move on to hashtag archery, which is also supporting Mixcast. You can see that this creates a great experience that everyone can understand. It's a pretty great game, definitely. Check it out. And of course, games aren't the only applications. Here we've got a medical training application which teaches you about anatomy, in this case through dog dissection.
So we believe that mixed reality solutions are going to be critical for a number of different areas. Certainly, developers like you are one of the primary audiences, and marketers as well, because as many of you probably found out, it's very difficult to convey that sense of presence in the experience that your game player or your user of your application is going to have. Mixed reality enables you to much more clearly communicate that experience and that sense of presence to people.
And of course, the next step is going to be broadcasters and streamers. It's a limited audience right now, but we can see it growing already, and I'm sure it will blow up pretty quickly. The great thing about mixed reality for broadcasters is that you're really bringing in your personality as well. You could be dressing up when you go into a VR application. So there's lots of opportunity there to really enhance your stream.
On the educators and trainers side, we've had some really interesting conversations lately with people who want to be able to start teaching from inside the applications they're developing, because they want to be able to teach students and show off the material that they have in new and innovative ways. And they want to be able to do that in a classroom setting, both to the audience that they have in front of the class and the audience that they potentially have for distance learning and online. And they want to do it in a way that combines that stream so the audience understands what's going on in a mixed reality broadcast stream rather than just with a headset on looking like they're being chased by a bee. As well, architects, engineers, and designers all have really, really interesting uses for this because they're all creating virtual pieces of material that will then be brought to life in the real world, whether it be a building, whether it be parts of a car, whether it be a structure. Putting a person into that scene enables them to then have scale, to be able to understand the relationship between what it is they're creating and communicate that both to people who are in the room with them as well as to somebody else who's in a distant setting. It enables collaboration in a new way because they can now much more easily, with a single set of headset gear, bring more people into that experience. Others can even walk into the scene. They can discuss things in a new way. They can communicate in a new way.
And what I'm really excited for is esports. I think this is going to be a really new opportunity to bring the athlete into the game in a seamless and understandable way. They've been wearing their team jerseys for a long time, but it didn't really make much sense because you were just seeing the gameplay from a screen anyway. So this is really going to bring the athlete and the game together.
So, hopefully that gives everyone a pretty good understanding of what we see as the continuum of mixed reality, of what we see as the importance of mixed reality really for this whole industry moving forward, to be able to continue to bring more people in, have more people understand the experience, and then continue to be able to broadcast that out to 2D screens in a distance and a present way. So that's it for our slides. If you got any questions, please step up to the microphone. Thank you.
Hey guys, can you talk a little bit about challenges of background versus foreground that I saw in one of those? You were manipulating the anatomy and it was in front of the user versus like having that be behind and how that's integrated into the...
Yeah, absolutely. You can definitely fake a lot of mixed reality right now by just using standard green screen setups and in post-processing overlaying that actor on top of the game that they're in or that they should be in. But really, we need to take this to another level and one that operates seamlessly and intuitively. And so in our current technology, we're often using either a texture that's just pasted right into the scene with that actor on it, or splitting the foreground and background into separate frames and then compositing them later, in the case of the buffered output. So it's been a really interesting problem to solve. It's going to continue to evolve in the future. Currently, I will say that it's a little bit of a hack right now. You're kind of a cardboard cutout at one depth. You might see the line sort of operate and move around because we're simply using the HMD's depth to calculate where you should be placed in the scene.
Next.
Does the mixed case VR can support a third controller? Then cameraman can move the camera?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We wanted to make sure that this setup would work simply with your existing Vive kit, but if you do have a third controller or a Vive tracker, we're absolutely able to use that if it's attached to the camera to allow for tracked motion.
Yeah, fairly shortly you'll be able to support multiple cameras as well in Mixedcast, be able to switch between those.
And even at this stage, you can actually support tracked motion by sacrificing one of your existing controllers in cases where you might not need both of them to create the mixed reality experience.
If you want to be able to do the background removal, however, without utilizing a green screen, you do need to use a static camera in order to achieve that. Any more questions?
All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you very much.
I hope you learned something.